today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Nick. Right, great to be here.
I'm stoked to chat to you now. This being a short chat, I can't go into your entire CV because you've done a lot. But if I can summarise, you've got innovation in your blood, and you have operated at the highest levels of bodies in Australia, pursuing that over the years in terms of innovation and funding. And currently, you are the Deputy Director General of the Department of Innovation, Tourism, Industry,
Tourism and Innovation. Yes, it's changed recently.
In State Government Queensland, and that's how we know you, because your department is one of the major sponsors of an event we have called the National Cleantech Conference, happening now next year. Now, I guess my first question for you is around innovation. So we're in a time now where there is an appetite, an increased appetite and desire for change, which is fantastic. But conversely, there is less of an appetite, I imagine, and it's going to keep going this way, for investment. Capital is potentially running for the hills. So what advice would you give someone who is an innovator, who is looking to pursue a new idea, entrepreneurs in this sort of environment? Is there any advice you can provide them to keep going forward?
So it's interesting on the whether there's a scarcity of investment. I mean, obviously there is, and there are some risk appetites that are changing, but there's also a lot of appetite for new ideas that will really help now. If you look at telepresence health, for instance, COVID has meant that now we don't go to the doctor, you actually just call them up, but it's actually even better if you can look at people and see people. So a company called CoView, for instance, has got massive growth right now. The government's actually just put them on to be the providers for free telepresence health for GPs across Australia. So there's a great example of finding that niche, that thing that's really going to help us as we recover from COVID. So that's my first thing, is think about things that are going to be useful right now. And entrepreneurs are so good at that, because the heart of an entrepreneur is you see a challenge and opportunity, and then you build a business around it. So, look for all those changing challenges and opportunities. And there's quite a lot of research that's been done on that too. A lot of papers I've seen recently talking about the sorts of sectors that are really growing rapidly right now. So, check that out and get yourself into that sweet spot. I have heard that investors in Silicon Valley are really going for it in terms of investing in those sorts of entities and ideas that are really helping right now. So I think the money is there. The other bit of advice is, get to know the entities that you're approaching for money. Get to know what it is that they have invested in, what they're talking about now, and the areas that you think they might be wanting to go into. So then you can really channel your energies towards people who are in the sector that you're interested in. I think also look for partners, corporate partners, because from an open innovation perspective and a routes to market perspective, a lot of corporates, large companies, are looking at how to get new ideas to market themselves, because their whole business models are being changed and are being threatened. So they're looking for new ideas. So have a check out of some companies that you think would align with the sorts of ideas that you've got, so that you could partner with them. The other thing to think about is, now is possibly a good idea to do some R&D. Things are a bit quieter, and we'll be having, for instance, Ignite Ideas coming out again soon. So there's opportunities there to use this quiet time to do some R&D, to change your direction, to pivot and adapt your products and services. And then lastly, think about your business models that you've got and how they need to adapt. I mean, we've spoken with some great companies that have realized that they can scale significantly by going online. And they hadn't really thought about that as a scaling opportunity in the past, because not so many people were online to receive their products and services, but now they are. So it's a great opportunity to start to think about, okay, how do I get my product and service to market? Because that route to market piece has really, really changed.
Awesome. That's some great advice. I think I want to ask you about was, you wrote an article recently on future industries, and what caught my eye was a quote. Well, it was a conversation you had with a venture capitalist who had overseas venture capitalists who had access to
China. Yeah.
I was going to say China. Yeah, China. China's venture capitalists had access to something like $25 billion worth of funds, and the point that this person made to you was that overseas investors see Australia as an attractive prospect, but we have issues with our fractured nature of our, I guess, our industries and how we do things. So how do we solve? I mean, if you had a magic wand how would you solve that? I mean, going forward to
Yeah.
attract.
Yeah. So, well, first, there's several pieces to that puzzle. I think the first one is we need to tell the stories. So, I mean, it's amazing. I come to Queensland and I get to see all these incredible innovative companies, and I hadn't heard of them before. Why not? Why do we not celebrate that in Australia? So that one of the first things I think we need to do in Australia is actually to have a mass collaborative effort to tell the stories through as many channels as we possibly can. Now that's to attract attention, but it's also to change culture, because one of the issues we have in Australia is that a lot of people are actually afraid of innovation. They're afraid of the new economy. They're afraid of the new emerging technologies. And yet, this is our future. This is the new economy we need to be working in. 75% of future high growth jobs need STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. 65% of them don't exist. So we've got to build them, unless we want low value jobs. And I'm sure none of us really want a future where we've got a lot of low value jobs. So it's absolutely crucial that we bring the public along and that we celebrate the great innovations and the entrepreneurs and startups and innovative big business and innovative small business. The whole gamut all needs to be celebrated. That's the first thing I think we need to do. The second thing is to make it easy for investors. Now, we do have some entities. I'm on the investment committee of Main Sequence Ventures, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be part of that entity. It's a $200 million fund investing in deep tech to build deep tech industries in Australia. Anyway, we do co-invest with a number of overseas investors. So we're finding that first of all, we had to go out to them, but now they're coming to us. So we're actually getting a lot of interest from overseas investors to invest in the sort of portfolio companies that we're finding around Australia. So those sorts of entities are really, really important. Now, if you looked at my article was sort of a parallel one to Roy Green's article around future manufacturing. And both, and I said in mine and Roy said in his, we actually need a national entity that's driving innovation, driving and connecting innovation across Australia. So I think that's something that I'll keep pushing for, because I think if we can have that entity that can be then responsible for telling all the stories, that can be responsible for changing the culture, can be responsible for connecting some of that investment to where it's needed, then that will be a big help. Now, if we don't get that, we can do it in the States, as we do in Advanced Queensland, which is a whole of government activities. It's not just our department, but Trade and Investment Queensland, for instance, are involved, DesBit and Des. So it's got to be through a collaborative approach. We are just about to launch a platform as well, which is going to showcase and be a connector for entrepreneurs, innovators, startups, innovative big business across Queensland. And that will be another little landing pad, if you like, for investors to see. The other thing is just get overseas, which I know we can't do right now. But back in Canberra, we used to take our startups over to Singapore. So we'd have a whole portfolio of them, take them over there, and they'd pitch to a bunch of overseas investors. And that started to build a bit more visibility of Australia and Australian innovation as well. So I think it's multi-pronged, but we absolutely need to do it collaboratively. And it was really good, actually. Recently, Karen Andrews, Minister for Industry, etc., she drew together the state ministers to talk about the new economies and how we can collaborate across the nation and across our state boundaries around the new economy. So that was just about a month ago. So that's good to see that happening in the States. And we actually ran a round table recently for people like myself in the other states to start to talk about how we collaborate. So I think there's a lot more openness to it now than there has been, which is very positive.
Yeah, I mean, Australia's always had a reputation of a place of great ideas that are developed overseas. So, it would be fantastic. And I love the idea of stories too. The power of stories is enormous. And if we can share that, and as you say, share that externally and share that internally as well, get some pride behind it, get some ownership behind it.
So I want to draw some people together on that. I mean, for instance, schools, they send out newsletters. So how do we get these stories into the newsletters? You go to San Francisco and it's on a front page of every day's newspaper is at least one or two articles about something innovative or entrepreneurial. How do we work with our media to do that? And what are the new channels? What's COVID done to communication? I haven't looked at that, but what are the channels people are using for communication and to get information? And how are the multiple ways that we can get that? CCIQ would have newsletters to the SMEs. Et cetera, et cetera. What are the whole lot of different ways that we could all work together to really sing out, particularly obviously now in Queensland, in terms of what we can celebrate in terms of our achievements, because there's a lot of great companies here.
Well, Sarah, I'm conscious we've gone way over the 3 minutes, but listen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. Thank you for your time and your insights. And we look forward to working with you and your department as the Cleantech conference approaches.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. Yeah, well done.